the younger generation would have things if they just worked harder. If this is your perspective, I want to share an example that might help convince you otherwise.
I just realized that groceries for a month cost more than a 65-inch flat screen TV in America.
So let me do the math here. If you make $25 an hour and you're working a full-time job, 40 hours a week, that means you're making $1,000 a week.
On top of that, working almost every single day, getting no time off, getting treated not in a way I would prefer. I don't make enough money to survive.
Many of us here in the US are waking up this morning to our investments and stocks plummeting.
Breaking news, as of now, 22 states are in an official recession.
The average median income in this country is $74,000.
The cost of living is crazy. You don't need me to tell you that.
Is America really going broke? Right now, the U.S. government's publicly held debt is right around $30.3 trillion.
I honestly have no idea what to do anymore. I'm sitting here, it's almost midnight. I've been scrolling for hours, just looking for jobs, like extra jobs. I work 2 jobs right now, and I feel like I can't even afford, what I'm trying to pay for. My rent's so expensive.
Nobody is smiling in America anymore, and honestly, how could they? When every day feels like a race you didn't sign up for. When your paycheck disappears before it even hits your account. When the American dream feels like a scam sold to people who just want a normal life. This is the reality millions of Americans are waking up to. A reality where life feels less like a dream and more like a slow, painful collapse. America was supposed to be the land of opportunity. Now it feels like the land of anxiety. People are not just tired, they're exhausted, not just stressed, they're broken. And behind all the frustration, all the anger, all the silence, is one truth no one wants to admit. The cost of living has stolen America's smile. There was a time when the American dream meant something simple and achievable. A decent job, a small home, a family vacation once a year. A life where you didn't have to count every dollar and pray you make it through the month. But that version of America is long gone. The dream didn't explode, it rotted slowly, price tag by price tag. Groceries doubled while wages stayed frozen. Rent turned into a second mortgage. A starter home now requires a salary only CEOs or influencers can reach. Medical bills can destroy a family overnight. Even basic life, food, lights, gas, rent, feels like a luxury package. People aren't chasing the American dream anymore. They're chasing the next paycheck just to avoid disaster, and every year millions watch their hopes shrink a little more.
Is America really going broke? Right now, the U.S. government's publicly held debt is right around $30.3 trillion. This is estimated to be 99.9% of the country's GDP. This means the value of our debt is basically the same as all of the goods and services we produce in a year. Now, it's important to note a rise in debt is not necessarily a bad thing as long as the GDP rises along with it. The Congressional Budget Office sets reasonable estimates for debt and GDP growth at 4.5% per year, 2.5% real growth, and 2.5% target inflation. So if the GDP grows at 4.5%, the annual deficit needs to be smaller than 4.5% for us to keep pace. But we are way over that 4.5% right now. The fiscal year for 2025 just ended and the deficit came in at just over 1.81 trillion or 6% of GDP. Now keep in mind the deficit is just for this year. So we overspent by $1.8 trillion last fiscal year. But even that number doesn't tell the whole story because last year's numbers received an artificial reduction of over $230 billion due to the way the government calculated the cost and revenue associated with student loans. Without this, the deficit for just 2025 would have been over $2 trillion or 2.7% of the country's GDP. If we stay on this path, experts at JP Morgan expect our debt to GDP ratio to rise to 102% as early as September of next year, which would mean we're effectively underwater as a country, and it could get even worse with the passing of the One Big Beautiful Bill. And these forecasts even assume strong tariff revenue, aka us as citizens are paying extra to the government. Maybe not through their new Venmo initiative, but through increased pricing on international goods. rates. And these forecasts assume no new major spending programs or emergencies, which is optimistic at best, if not delusional. Any new domestic initiative, natural disaster, or geopolitical conflict could blow these numbers wide open and run up the deficit. And I do not say this to scare you, it's more to prepare you. And one way you can do this is through a strong emergency fund and diversifying your investments. Even though investing in the US economy has historically been a sound and resilient investment strategy, diversifying your investments into things like international stocks could help insulate your portfolio. Probably the most important thing that we can do is vote. The country's fiscal health is directly impacted by who we send to Washington. Representatives, senators, everybody. And with midterms coming up, this could be our chance to see some positive change.
The year is 1990. The average annual income for Americans is $35,500 a year. They can buy a brand new car for $14,000. They get a gallon of gas for $1.04. And to purchase a home that year, it's $79,000. Let's fast forward to 2025. The average median income in this country is $74,000. You can buy a car for $53,000. You're going to pay $4 for a gallon of gas, and the average home price is $416,000. I'm no mathematician, and I'm no expert, but boomers had the most beneficial time financial-wise of any generation. And they are generally the quickest to tell you that you're lazy. Kids these days, they're aware of those numbers I just gave you. So if you're Gen X like me, you witnessed how good the boomers have it, and now your kids, our kids, have it like this. We were the generation that scraped by and learned how to do a lot with very little. I don't see a lot of hope for kids these days. Let's remember that when none of them want to work at a fast food joint. Let's remember that.
Let's talk about the new normal in America, a normal nobody asked for. 2 jobs, normal, no savings. Normal, living paycheck to paycheck, basically everyone. Feeling guilty for taking a day off? Welcome to America 2025. Families who once felt stable are now living on the edge. People who worked hard their whole life are suddenly rationing groceries. Parents skip meals so their kids can eat. Young adults can't move out because rent is more than their entire salary. And when people look around for help, they find nothing but empty promises and excuses. This isn't a temporary crisis. This is the country now. What America is dealing with isn't just inflation, it's emotional collapse. Stress is becoming the national mood, anxiety is the national anthem, and hopelessness is the new American identity. Here's what people won't say out loud. It's embarrassing to struggle this hard. It's humiliating to work nonstop and still fall behind. It's painful to pretend everything is fine when everything is falling apart. People aren't crying because they're weak. They're crying because the system is crushing them. You can't smile when your rent went up $400. You can't smile when groceries cost the same as a car payment. You can't smile when you can't afford to live your own life. That's why America's smile is gone, but because the cost of living has erased the joy from everyday life.
I honestly have no idea what to do anymore. I'm sitting here, it's almost midnight. I've been scrolling for hours, just looking for jobs, like extra jobs. I work 2 jobs right now, and I feel like I can't even afford, what I'm trying to pay for. My rent's so expensive. I go to the grocery store today, I get bread, peanut butter, jelly, and milk, and it comes out to almost $18. $18 for sandwich ingredients without any protein and milk. My phone bill's expensive, gas is expensive, and I'm just like, man, I'm a 28-year-old. I'm out here in Oregon, and I honestly don't even know what to do. Something needs to change. Something must change very, very fast, or I honestly, I don't know if I'll be able to survive this. I've talked to many people. They're in the same boat. So I want to use this page as a place for people to come support each other and just, hopefully get through this together, because I know it's not just me. We're in this together. It's going to be okay. But we really got to ride this out together.
This is why I feel like the cost of living has never been as bad as it is right now. Because it used to be when the cost of living was high, it was for the things that you need in life. Food, gas, shelter, etc. All of those things cost a lot of money. Right now, all of those things still cost a lot of money. And also, I feel like it's just expensive to just be alive. Like, I feel like my life as soon as I wake up is literally just me putting down a credit card, and it's just a tab. And life is a bartender. And it's just like, what are you going to have? And I'm just like, I'm okay. I don't really need anything today. And it's just like, oh, really? Well, if you're going to be here, you're going to need to spend money. And I'm just like, what do you mean here? I'm just in the world. And it's just like, yeah, you have to buy something now. It's even getting to the point where, like, I feel like even my thoughts are getting expensive, you know? Like I could just have the thought of like, my nose is a little stuffy. And then all of a sudden I open up my phone 10 minutes later and have 12 ads for like, oh, you have a pollen allergy and you got to buy these anti-pollen allergy pills or you're going to suffocate in your sleep. Sleep is the only place I still feel kind of safe. But even there, it's like I could have sleep problems for one night and then I wake up feeling kind of groggy and all of a sudden I'm getting targeted ads for melatonin gummies. It's like all of our necessities are still expensive, and then also just every increment of our life costs something.
Why is no one talking about how serious the cost of living actually is? So we pay like a really cheap amount of rent compared to like all the other rent I see, and we're a family of 6. We pay $9.50 rent. That's cheap. We're in Missouri. It's like not some nice new place or anything. It was actually built in 1890. My husband is working 3 jobs right now. We buy absolutely nothing that we don't need. And we actually go without a lot of things that we actually do need. I feel like if you're able to do anything that's not just surviving, then you got it good. I feel so sad that I didn't appreciate the times where we were able to actually have fun at this point. So much has changed in the past few years. Like, what? I just really, really want to know. How is everyone surviving? Is everyone working like 24/7? Because that's what my husband does. And I'm just home with my little kids all the time. It's kind of like depressing that we're never together as a family. So I don't know. I hope one day we can be, but it sucks.
With I just realized that groceries for a month cost more than a 65-inch flat screen TV
now
in
these
America.
days. If you guys had to pick
For a single
one
person.
or 2 things, what would you say has now
That's fucking
become
insane.
some of the hardest things to afford?
That is
as
so
a part
wild.
Of your daily life?
Whenever you
for me, I think
put it
I
into
would
that,
definitely
like,
choose
perception.
groceries
Oh
for
my
one,
fucking
and
God.
probably
I remember when, like,
housing. So
getting
like
a
rent or
65-inch flat
mortgage.
screen TV used to mean
But
like
let me
you
know
were
what you
rich.
guys think.
Groceries for 4 weeks of living cost more than a 65-inch flat screen TV. What? You can now afford a TV better than you can groceries as a single person every single month in America. What the fuck? But, inflation. Why the fuck do TVs not go up? Because that's how they keep us brainwashed. That's how they keep selling us shit. Oh my God. I can't fucking deal. I'm so broke. And not because of me. My groceries cost more than a 65-inch flat screen TV.
People are always asking me why I moved away from, what the fuck is that? Why I moved away from California. They're like, why would you leave California? It's so cool there. And I'm like, yeah, it is. But you know what's not cool? Is the $500 ticket I got in San Francisco for running a red light at like midnight because I was going to pick up my sister from the airport, and I just underestimated the amount of time that I had in the intersection before the light went red. So I got a $500 ticket for that. Not to mention that gas is literally twice as expensive as what I pay now in Colorado. It's like $5 a gallon. It cost me twice as much to fill up my car. And then there's everything else. There's like California tax on everything. I swear to God, like parking garages easily $50 a day if you're in San Francisco or like some part of any city in California. If you want to park on the street, it's like $4.50 an hour in the meter to park on the freaking street. Oh, you want to rent somewhere to live in California? We'll get ready to pay first month, last month, and a security deposit equal to a month of rent. When I was living in a crappy bedroom in the Bay Area, I paid $3,800 of move-in costs to move in there. Like, my quality of life is just better not living in California on the budget that I was on. In Colorado, my security deposit was like way, way less than that. It wasn't even a third of that. Like, it's way less than that, right? So, like, yeah, California is cool, but only if you make a certain amount of money and you're willing to spend a certain amount of money on things that shouldn't cost that much.
Here's the hard truth. This crisis didn't appear out of nowhere. It was built piece by a system that prioritizes corporations, investors, lobbyists, and political theater, while ignoring the actual people who make the country run. Wages stayed low on purpose, housing prices exploded on purpose, grocery chains jacked up prices on purpose, energy companies raised bills because why not? America acts like it's confused why people are struggling, but everyone knows exactly why. The system wasn't designed to help you, it was designed to profit from you. Politicians talk, corporations take, and citizens pay the price. And 2025, 2026, and beyond will only get darker if nothing changes. Here's what's so devastating. Millions of Americans are starting to believe something they never thought they'd say. The American dream is dead. Not dying. Not damaged. Dead. Because what kind of dream is it when you can't afford a home, you can't afford groceries, you can't afford kids, you can't afford healthcare, you can't afford to survive? People aren't lazy. People aren't irresponsible. People aren't failing. The system failed them, and now the country is facing something even worse. A generation losing hope, a nation losing faith, and a population that's too exhausted to keep pretending everything is fine. America is becoming a place where surviving feels like winning, where working hard still isn't enough, where happiness itself feels like a luxury. No wonder nobody is smiling anymore.
The younger generation would have things if they just worked harder. If this is your perspective, I want to share an example that might help convince you otherwise. My husband and I bought our house in 2011, so 14 years ago. We bought it for $147,000 with an interest rate of 4.75%. Now we have our homeowner's insurance and taxes escrowed into our mortgage. So for anyone who doesn't know what that means, it's all in one payment. We make one payment to the bank and the bank pays our insurance and taxes for us. The loan also had PMI. So for those who don't know what that stands for, it's private mortgage insurance. It's something that most banks require on mortgages in which you still owe 80% of the loan. In other words, if you don't put 20% down from the jump, more likely than not, they'll tag this extra insurance on. Anyways, when we first got this loan in 2011, our payment was $1,344. When we finally had equity in the house and paid the balance down, they removed the PMI and our payment went to $951. Okay, now get this, we just got our home appraised and it appraised for $360,000. So more than 2 times what we initially paid in 2011. Not only that, interest rates are now what, 7.5% maybe even more? So I looked up how much a $360,000 loan with a 7.5% interest rate would be, because that's what I'd be up against if I was purchasing a home in today's market. Again, I'm pretending to put down the same down payment. I'm including PMI, homeowner's insurance, and taxes, just like we did 14 years ago. And do you know what that payment would be? $3,100. What's a young person's starting salary nowadays? Like $25 an hour? That's $52,000 a year with a mortgage of $37,000 a year. So are some folks just lazy and unmotivated? Yes, of course. There's those people in every generation. But for the majority, it's not that they're not working hard enough. It's just not possible.
Many of us here in the US are waking up this morning to our investments and stocks plummeting. I know I made the mistake of checking my account. Trump's tariffs have had a huge, huge impact on the economy and will continue to do so. You know, it's a bad sign when his former vice president, Mike Pence, is speaking out directly against these tariffs and warning that the average American will be losing $3,500 this year as a result of the tariffs. Do you know how many people voted for this administration without even understanding what a tariff is? But do you know who did explain it and did warn over and over? Kamala Harris. She spoke out directly against what is happening now. And yet, here we are.
Breaking news, as of now, 22 states are in an official recession. This means that for a vast portion of Americans, we are facing economic hardship. So don't let economists and Fox News reporters tell you we're fine, we're not in a recession, because we are and we have the data to prove it. Recession is often characterized by lack of job opportunities as well as persistent economic hardship lasting more than a few months. Current estimates suggest that 60% of Americans are living paycheck to paycheck, and many people are struggling to put food on the table each day. States currently in or on the brink of recession include Oregon, Georgia, and Illinois, where I currently live. There has been a significant decline in economic activity in these states that has lasted for more than a few months. The craziest thing is that the District of Columbia, or DC, the capital of the country, is one of the territories that's hit the hardest right now. But why? Largely because of Trump's economic plan and the tariffs. So many politicians are lying to us right now by saying that our economy is the greatest in the world, especially those on the right, and I want you to know right now that no, you're not crazy. Yes, the economy is worse. Yes, it is harder to get a job. And yes, it is because of the person who is in office right now, as well as various other factors. Crazy, and we're only 1 year into his presidency.
I was thinking about this. We are the richest country on the planet, one of the richest countries. Why does it look like ass? Like, really think about that for a second. Like, when you're driving, if you're not in like Florida or California or the coast of like Oregon or whatever, it's like, this place looks like shit. And we have so much money. Like, I'm thinking of like Europe and Japan and all the architecture like across the world and how beautiful it looks. Why don't we have like rose gold fucking buildings, and like, why does the Kmart's and like all of the stores look like shit? Like, I don't know. I'm just thinking in my head, I'm closing my eyes and I can imagine like look at China, like Shanghai, like the coast, like all those videos you see, that's like no joke, stunning, beautiful, high tech. You would think America would look like that with the amount of money that we have, but it just looks like, ugh, you know what I mean?
Can we talk about how quickly the prices of your purchases seem to increase in literally the span of like 5 seconds? I literally just went to Target to get literally a handful of things that I needed. Not even a handful, half a handful of things that I needed. With those like 4 or 5 things, I already spent $22. Hear me out. I know some people are going to easily be like, well, that's because you went to Target. You're not wrong. But Target is closer, and I really didn't have the patience for Walmart today. So yeah, starting off strong. I needed feminine products, which in all honesty really should be free, but that's a whole different topic for another time. I needed more tissue because I was on my last roll today. I mean, you need something to wipe your butt with. Literally a travel size Vaseline because mine is running low and it's getting cold and we don't have time for dry lips. And then just 2 things of gummy bears because I wanted a snack. That's it. And that was $22. Like, what?
I'm an Australian and I've been living in Chicago in the United States for 5 months now. And most of you who follow me here already probably know that. And moving here, I was really shocked at the cost of living. It is pretty insane living in Chicago. Sydney's a really expensive place to live, but I wanted to show you how much like average groceries cost. And I shop at Jewel Osco, which is a supermarket here. And they have this really cool system where you can like scan coupons as you shop. They've gamified the experience, so then you can save money. I find that really helps, and I generally only buy things on sale. I think I've got a pretty decent job here, and even I find it really expensive. So to be honest, I don't know how y'all are doing it if you're not working in professional roles or things like that. As an Aussie from a city that's really expensive like Sydney, even, I'm finding it pretty shocking, the price of groceries here. So we've got 2 bags of stuff. Without discounts, it's like $100, but it came down to about $83 US, which I don't know, it's 120 odd Australian dollars, I guess, for 2 bags of things. And this amount of food's not everything that I eat, but it will last me at least a couple of days. So things like bananas, they're 79 cents a pound. So I don't know, this many bananas is about $2. $2.50. I'm obsessed with berries. I eat so much fruit here in the US. That was the biggest surprise, because these on like coupon are only 99 cents. And blackberries in Australia cost a fortune, so I buy as many berries as I can and I eat them with cottage cheese, with yogurt, put them in my smoothies, because I feel like having a lot of fiber is a very, very good thing for us to do in our diet. Even meat. The price of meat is so unpredictable here. Like, this whole thing was only $7.80 for this much chicken, but any other day, it's only $2 a pound, but normally this is $20. So sometimes you just get this miraculous food The meat quality is not great compared to home, but you know, you get what you can. And then even this steak, cheap steak, but it's only $6 for two. So out of these two alone with some rice and some frozen broccoli or something, I'll get like 6, 7 meals perhaps. So I just like to have a lot of meat and rice basically, and then the rest I can make up. Avocados, $3 for a bag. These used to be so expensive in Australia. I think they've cheapened out. I really spoiled myself with a big surprise. This was the biggest shock of all. Now don't come at me because they're caged eggs and I feel really awful. But I eat a lot of eggs, like sometimes 4 or 5 a day. And 18 eggs was $12 US, which is fucking out of control. So I don't know what the alternative is. It's not like I can have a chicken in an apartment. Bagels every single day, $5. Oats have been a godsend. It is like minus 14 degrees, feels like minus 20 Celsius here in Chicago. So anything that's warm, that like warms you up on the inside, is always really good. Tomatoes, same price as home, a couple bucks a pound. Cheese to make omelets. Cottage cheese is my favorite protein source of all time. I'm not in the best shape at the moment, but when I'm eating really well, this is basically like a really good indication of all the regular things that I eat. Almond milk, I don't drink dairy milk. Seasonings, oh my god, spices are so expensive here in the US. There's some things I just don't understand how expensive they are here, like cereal, spices, and they don't seem to have like generic alternatives or things just for that specific supermarket. Like, it's really strange. Maybe I shouldn't be shopping at Jewel Osco, I don't know. And then of course yogurt. So, if I show you everything, this is basically everything that I managed to buy for $83 using the coupons and stuff like that. So you can get a fair amount of meals, and then you just have to add a few, you know, simple essentials like rice. I eat a lot of frozen broccoli here as well. I tend to cook maybe like 3 days a week if I can, just to make sure I've got 6 good meals, and then I eat out quite a bit as well, which certainly adds up. But because you're tipping and paying a lot of tax and everything like that, it just costs so bloody much to eat out, and it's very unpredictable how much you're going to spend at the end of the week. So entertainment budget much higher than it used to be in Australia. But overall, I mean, my favorite part is I just eat so much fruit. But that's a grocery haul in America.
The cost of living is crazy. You don't need me to tell you that. But it appears like lots of folks are getting by just putting everything on a credit card, which is plunging Americans deeper and deeper into debt. That is according to a brand new report that found household debt in the United States of America just hit a record high. I'm talking about mortgages and car loans and credit cards and student loans. But despite all the debt, there may be a little silver lining, which I'm going to tell you all about in this video. But before I do that, I want to thank my paid Facts HQ subscribers for voting for this story as the bonus this week. If you want to vote on next week's bonus story, you can do that by just following these easy steps and becoming a paid subscriber too. It is because of my paid subscribers that I'm able to bring you the news every single day. This channel would go away without them. So if you would like to support my work, please consider becoming a paid subscriber. Okay, I'm going to switch things up. Before I talk about the bad news, which is all of the debt that we're all drowning in, I want to start this video with that little silver lining that I mentioned. So the New York Fed puts out this American household debt and credit report every single quarter, and they just released all of the data for the third quarter of 2025. So that means July, August, and September. According to the New York Fed, the silver lining is household balance sheets, which is what the Fed calls the financial health of a household. They say those balance sheets look pretty good, pretty strong. Meaning, overall, when you take everything into consideration, when you combine household assets and liabilities, generally, Americans are doing pretty good. Of course, that does not mean everybody, and it certainly does not mean that people are thriving. All they said was U.S. households are doing pretty good. Now, this third quarter report also found that delinquencies are now starting to stabilize, meaning the rate of people who are delinquent on paying their loans, the chart isn't going like this, skyrocketing. The chart is sort of starting to level out. Now, that's not to say that people aren't delinquent. They are, and I'm about to show you how bad. It just means that delinquency rates are not as jarring as they were a few years ago. Now, I know that's not much of a silver lining, but I just report the facts, and sorry, that's what I got. Okay, so now let's talk about this debt, because the fact is, based on the third quarter numbers, households in the United States, when you combine mortgages, car loans, credit cards, and student loans, are sitting at a total of $18.6 trillion in debt. That is a new record high. Every single debt category has increased by double digits when compared to last year. And you can really see it when you compare the third quarter of 2025 to the third quarter of 2024, so just within a year. Mortgage debt is up almost $480 billion. Credit card debt increased almost $70 billion. Car loan debt increased by $11 billion. But we need to talk about student loan debt, because that debt increased $47 billion a year over year. But it's not just about the increase in overall student debt, it's about the percentage of serious delinquencies that is alarming. The New York Fed considers a loan seriously delinquent when you have not made a payment in at least 90 days. So the number of people who are now seriously delinquent on their student loans is more than 14% higher in the third quarter of 2025 than it was in the third quarter of 2024. That was by far the biggest delinquency increase of any type of loan that the New York Fed looks at. Now, a 14% increase doesn't sound like a lot, but when you look at the chart, you can really see it. Do you see that red line that just goes straight up? That is the student loan serious delinquency line. And you can see it just goes straight up starting in the first quarter of 2025. Of course, the blue line is higher in delinquencies. That is the number of people who are seriously delinquent with their credit card debt. But nowhere else on the chart does the delinquency line go straight up. So the question is, what is going on with student loans? Well, in January of 2025, that is the first quarter. That is when President Trump took office. And almost immediately, his Department of Education began the process of ending the student loan forbearance program, which then meant that people were getting sent to collections for not paying their student loans. And what this chart is representing is what we anecdotally already know, which is when people are struggling to pay their basic bills and they don't have the money to keep up, they are just going to choose not to pay their student loans. And that line proves it. I also want to point out one other place where we're starting to see a dramatic spike. Do you see that blue line that is going straight up starting in the first quarter of 2025? And then to a lesser extent, that red line that is also starting to go straight up. These are serious delinquencies by age of all types of debt. The blue line represents 18 to 29-year-olds, and the red line represents 30 to 39-year-olds. Those two lines, according to the New York Fed's data, say that younger people in this country are dramatically becoming delinquent on their debt. And that, the New York Fed says, is concerning, not just for these young people, but overall for the US economy. And you can really see it when you start to break down each of the types of debt. You can see the same trend when it comes to delinquent credit card payments. You can see the blue line and the red line are clearly leading the pack. And you can see the same thing when it comes to delinquent auto loans. Again, the red and the blue lines, those younger Americans are the ones at the top with the most delinquencies. Now, while the auto loan delinquencies and the credit card delinquencies and the student loan delinquencies really look dramatic on the chart, I want to just, for the record, make it very clear that these are not the biggest sources of debt in the United States. The vast, vast, vast majority of debt in this country is represented here in orange. That is mortgage debt. It accounts for 70% of all the debt in this country. And according to the latest report for the third quarter, Americans are sitting on more than $13 trillion in mortgage debt. So if you want to read this report for yourself or look at any of those charts a little deeper, I'm going to email all of it out to you in my next Facts HQ email. So make sure you sign yourself up.
America was built on a promise of a better life, a brighter future, and a fair shot for everyone. But today, millions are dealing with a painful new reality. A life where the bills don't stop, the struggle doesn't ease, and the dream feels like a lie. No matter how hard people work, the cost of living keeps crushing them. And until leaders stop pretending, until corporations stop bleeding people dry, until the system finally puts people first instead of profits, America will remain a nation where the lights are on, but the smiles are gone. Because right now, the American dream hasn't just faded, it's turned into a nightmare.